Well, do you love traveling, but you hate the jet lag? One airline is researching ways to help reduce some of the adverse effects of air travel. Australian airline Qantas and the University of Sydney's Charles Perkins Centre released findings showing that specific changes like adjusting cabin lighting and meal times could help reduce jet lag and improve the in-flight experience. So here to discuss is Melanie Fish. She's the head of the Global Public Relations, and she's a travel expert for Expedia Group Brands. Hey, good to see you. This I found so fascinating because, often when we've talked about going on vacation, if it's a long distance, my husband will say, well, if we're not going for 2 weeks, there's no point because for the first 3 days, jet lag is going to ruin everything for us. And then before you know it, we'll be back on the plane. So what can you tell us about this study?
Well, planes are getting ready to stay in the air a lot longer than ever before. And so, what Qantas did with the study is recognize that just because planes are able to make flights longer than ever before doesn't mean humans are ready to make these flights. So, they're making adjustments to the flight experience so that it's a little more palatable to those of us on the flight.
So these are like, they studied this stuff to figure out how to make you feel just a little better when you get off the flight at the other end. What changes did the airline implement in order to help reduce jet lag?
Well, typically what happens now when you get on a flight that is crossing time zones is if you board the flight in a city where it's dinner time, they feed you dinner. If it's bedtime, they turn out the lights. What Qantas did is kind of magically turn the time zone to the destination as soon as you board. So even though it was dinner time in New York, they fed the passengers lunch, and then they kept the lights on for another 6 hours to try to get body clocks starting to adjust to time in Australia. Another thing they did was give passengers a little bit more room to move around. They had a stretching zone on the plane because we know that on long flights, it's really important to get up to keep the blood flow going. But right now, that's limited to basically pacing up and down the aisle. So while I don't think we're going to be doing Zumba classes on flights anytime soon, I think it's a positive change that there are special stretching areas set aside.
I love that because, we went to Japan recently and I was researching all this stuff about how to reduce your jet lag. And one of the things they say is try to get on the other time zone early. And I'm like, that's impossible because I'm living in this time zone where I got to go to work and send the kid to school. I can't just go to bed when they're going to bed in Japan. So this is so interesting. Can you explain the significance of the study then across the entire industry? Do you think that maybe other airlines might adopt similar changes?
I think it's a great sign. It's a sign that this airline and hopefully others will follow in recognizing the importance of not only the in-flight experience of the passengers, but how they're going to feel when they get to their destination. We're talking about flights of 20 plus hours. So how many repeat customers are you going to have if you're miserable for a couple of days when you get to your destination?
Right.
So I think it's a really good sign.
And then what's the Project Sunrise?
This is Qantas's study to experiment on what's going to work to help passengers make that transition. So it was not only about the times they serve the meals, but maybe what kinds of foods would work to help people adjust their body clock. Some of it's common sense, caffeine when you want to wake up, herbal tea when you sleep, but also they served foods full of tryptophan, that amino acid in Thanksgiving turkey that makes you sleepy, to help people transition to bedtime.
Fascinating. Melanie Fish, thank you very much.
Let's go. Let's travel.
Let's travel.